Hello, this is Jonas from the Solution Center in Tokyo. We are now going to do some work with Redfish and SCP, server configuration profiles. They can be very handy for automating and copying configurations, BIOS, RAID settings, RAID volumes, etc., across between servers. So we're going to start by exporting a system configuration, and we are exporting it in the format of XML, which is the default, and we are sending this off to a standard CIFS or SMB Windows share. It's on a Linux server, but whatever. So we're going to start by doing that. Simply kick off with Python and use that script. These scripts, by the way, are included in a white paper, which I will post the information for when we put this up on YouTube. There are a couple of white papers, but this one focuses on the server configuration profiles. So then we specify the name of the file that we want to export to. So that'll end up on that file share. The rest, of course, is the iDRAC IP address, username, and the password. So we see here now from looking at the server, and this is a 14G server, that the export configuration profile job has been kicked off and is running. The script will also query this server until the job is marked as complete. It will give you also the latest status of it. So there you go. That is a full export that took 24 seconds. It's a lot faster on 14G than 13G, by the way. So if we look then at the file share server, the Samba share that we copied this file to, and there you go. That is the file that we were looking for. Of course, if you exported the file, you may want to import it as well. And we're just going to use the file that we had here since before that we just exported, and we are going to edit. Actually, we just take for example, the power cap, because that's easy and very visible. Right now it's disabled. We don't have a cap on the power. And we'll just enable this and change it to a value that is easy to recognize. For example, 444. And I will delete all the other entries in here. You could upload the entire file as is. The server will be smart enough to realize that you have, it doesn't need to change all the settings. But I just wanted to show that you can do a selective update just on these two settings, the power cap settings being enabled and also the value for the power cap. We save this now as a separate file, so we can compare that with the full export size-wise at the very least. So now if we list these up, we can see we got the full export and then just the power cap. Very short. You can use this on a separate server as well. It doesn't have to be the same server type. As long as they got roughly the same firmware version, then you should be fine, depending on the settings. But in this case, it should work across. Let's look at the import, the CIFS import script. And well, basically now we're just doing import system configuration and specifying the file name as the input for this. And it is already preset to go and look at the specified file share. So just enter the iDRAC IP address, username, password, and then the file that we wanted to go take. So just copy and paste that from here. And in this case, of course, we're not updating very much, so it's fairly quick. If we check it from here, yeah, it's actually already completed. There you go. It's fairly fast. So let's go and yeah, 12 seconds. That's pretty quick. Let's go and verify that the setting is in there, and it's set to enabled and 444 watts. And there you are, power management, power cap is set, enabled 444. So there you go. We can now also export the server configuration profiles to web servers. So we have an Apache web server that has been set up to allow for importing or uploading of files. So that's what we're going to do. And the script now is export to HTTP. As you can see, the format is JSON instead of XML like it was before, and the share type is set to HTTP. So just enter the web server folder and the IP address of the web server, and that's all you need. It takes then the standard iDRAC IP username, password, and also then the file name that you want to create as input variables. And then not forget to set the file extension to JSON instead of XML there. So we let that job run. It should not take too long either. It should be done in a few seconds time. Yeah, and there you go. 12 seconds for that as well, so fairly quick. And if we go and check the actual web server, there you go, there's the file name that we specified that we wanted. Of course, if you have exported, you may want to import. Let's do the same thing. You can import it, of course, from the same web server. Now, let's just modify this a little bit. We set the power cap before, so that'll be set to 444. Let's just update that to 555. Just to verify that we can do this with JSON and from a web share as well. And now, of course, we do the Redfish SCP import HTTP script and specify the iDRAC IP address, username, password, and the file name. In this case, we have not edited the file to remove all the other entries like we did for the XML file, which means that the server will read this, it will compare to the settings it already has, and it will ignore everything that is already set as specified. It'll only take the entries that we have specified now, which is the power value, the power cap value. So it should be fairly fast as well. There you go. That's also 12 seconds. Seemed to be the magical number. If we go in there and we can check the config for it. And there you go. The value is now set to 555. No problem at all. So standard export format actually comments out a lot of sections in the file to make sure that if you import the file to another server, it will not destroy any data. Now, if we specify this with a clone option instead, when we export it, you will end up with a file that has those areas uncommented. So they will be, if you apply it to another server, it will wipe out any partitions, any RAID volumes in there and recreate them. So this is really handy if you have the same type of server and you want to automatically set up not just the BIOS settings, etc., but also want the RAID controller to recreate all the RAID volumes. It's actually really cool. Once if you have a lot of servers to set up, this can really save you a lot of time. So that's what we're doing now. We are now going to export it in a clone format, and it's the same file, the same type of file. It's just that when you enter the clone option in there, it is going to leave a lot of the sections uncommented. So they will be applied if you then enter this into another server. Let's have a look at the resulting file. We have specified that was a clone, and it's an XML format in this case. So let's have a look at it. How you can verify if it is in a RAID or in a clone format or not is to look at the RAID settings, for example, because they will be set to create the volumes. Otherwise, these areas will be commented out. As you can see, it's set to create in the RAID action, and then you can be certain that this, if you import this to another system, it will be applied, it will recreate the RAID volumes. It has to, of course, have the same type of disks in there for that to work, but it can be really handy. Now, we've exported to shares so far. It's actually possible to suck down the settings into a local file that you can utilize if you want to just check something locally on the client PC that you got. So let's do that. Let's just do an export local, and in this case it will display the output to screen. It will also create an XML file with the settings in there. You can specify the sections as well for this, so that it doesn't export everything. You can say you just want the BIOS settings, just the network settings, just the RAID settings, etc. But there you go. It just created the export file there as well. And the same thing, but importing. So let's have a look at this. We can modify something in here again. We first make a copy of it. Now this was the BIOS section that we exported before, not the entire thing. So let's go and change, for example, the processor virtualization. It's disabled, but we enable that. Just that one setting. Now, since this is the BIOS setting for the CPU settings, it will need to reboot the server for this to take effect. So it will take a little bit longer than the other settings we have applied. However, we can check actually how long this is going to take. So I'm going to copy this file, just take these entries that we have. I'm going to put that on the CIFS file share that we used so far. And I'm going to use another script to actually check how long we estimate that it's going to take to change the settings in there. So now we copied that. We have a file on the CIFS share, the export local. And we're going to run the script now to check how long that's going to take. So it's basically import preview is what it's called. So that's the script we kick off now. And we'll see what it says about it. It will definitely take a while. It's hard to estimate this because it depends on the server type as well and how it is configured when it comes to booting, etc., etc. So, for example, if it's set to boot from the network, or if it has a lot of disks in it, etc., etc., it can take a while. It does estimate this is going to take 180 seconds though. So let's see. Now we'll do the actual import, and in this case we import local, which means we don't use the CIFS share. We just specify the file that we have locally here, the demo export local XML file. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. It takes a few minutes for it. There you go, 4 minutes, 47 seconds. A little bit over the expected time of 180 seconds, but let's have a look at the configuration. Did we actually get that BIOS setting changed? Processor virtualization was disabled. Let's see if it's enabled now. And it is. Fantastic. So that seemed to work fine. So this is a very powerful tool for working with server configurations, for cloning, and for deploying servers in bulk. So please have a look at it, and hopefully it'll be useful to you. Thank you.